Hello and welcome to Adoption Pop. We're a podcast journalist,
filmmaker,
and a cultural critic burst pop culture's favorite adoption tropes.
Because we're adopted.
I have a question for each of you. Who is going to play you in your biopic?
Okay, I have a slight pivot in my answer, but I had to pick someone who I'd like to play me in a podcast. And so I'm going with Phoebe Judge, her voice. She's from Criminal and This Is Love. Her voice is iconic and I wish I sounded like her. So Phoebe, if I ever make it big, please offer to play me in a podcast about me. Crystal, what about you?
I didn't think about my answer because I was too worried about my hair, you guys.
Uh-huh. Your hair's looking really great, Crystal. For listeners who may not be able to see Crystal, she is in a she's got a blonde look going on today. It's a little curly, it's a little long, it's a little mullety. She's embracing a character of sorts, which we'll get to. Sullivan, do we have an idea of who could play Crystal? I guess maybe it's Crystal that needs to star in a biopic.
Yeah, you're giving, you know what, you're giving Dolly Parton circa 9 to 5 is really what I'm getting from this look. Would you agree, Haley?
Absolutely. Yes. So if we can time travel for this movie, past Dolly Parton could play Crystal in her current iteration.
Okay. Well, to my knowledge, I don't think Dolly Parton has yet been the subject of a biopic. However, there have been many actresses out there that have played singers, and we will add Kate Hudson's name to that list. And that list includes Jamie Foxx, Austin Butler, Rami Malek, Andra Day, and Reese Witherspoon. And in fact, that list are all actors who have been Oscar nominated for playing a real-life singer on screen. This is actually Hudson's second nomination, her first coming a quarter century ago in another musical movie, Cameron Crowe's Almost Famous, in which she played the fictitious Band-Aid Penny Lane. This time, Hudson takes a turn alongside Hugh Jackman as Claire Sardina, one half of the real-life Milwaukee-based Neil Diamond tribute act, Lightning and Thunder. The film is Song Sung Blue. And Crystal, you may not have been prepared with an actress to name to play you, but please tell me you are prepared to sing us some Neil Diamond.
Song sung blue, everybody knows one. I forgot the words. That's all you get out of me today. But I just want to say that I share in Mike Sardina's dislike for Sweet Caroline. I'm sorry, everybody. No. When it comes on, I'm like, why do we care about this song? No offense to Neil Diamond, but it is not it for me.
Yeah, a hard pass on Sweet Caroline. I'm more of an I Am I Said girl.
I loved that one. Okay, can I just confess? I didn't know any Neil Diamond songs other than Sweet Caroline, and so this film really helped me get to know him, his music. Not him.
I feel like Neil Diamond is right up your alley, Crystal. Quite honestly, I'm surprised. I'm surprised.
What does that mean?
No, it's not a
like I like old dudes, or
no, not Neil Diamond, the dude. Neil Diamond's music.
It's very melodic. You can sing along to it. I definitely got that from it. I can see why there are diehard Neil Diamond fans.
Well, Neil Diamond is not the subject of Song Sung Blue, but the tribute band Lightning and Thunder, who are a couple, Claire and Mike Sardina. And again, this is a true story. They are a couple from Milwaukee, and they are not play in a Neil Diamond tribute band, like they are the Neil Diamond tribute band. And so the film opens. We see them meet. They meet in adulthood. Both have children from prior marriages. They get married. They fall in love. Then they get married. And Mike moves in with Claire and her 2 children, who are of adolescent and teenage years. Her son Dana and her daughter Rachel, and we will see them. I was going to say we're going to see them grow up in the film. The film covers a handful of years in their life, and one of the things I noticed really early on in this film is Mike and Claire seem to be sort of dreamers. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I noticed that Rachel, who is the teenage daughter, really was responsible for a lot of the household. It seemed to me that she was the adult in the house. Did you feel that?
When Claire brings Mike home from a date, she goes into Rachel's room and is like touching up her makeup and stuff and is insisting that Rachel come and say hi to him. And it is a very weird dynamic. And when you pointed this out, that she's responsible for most of the household, I was like, yeah, like she's almost in a parenting role a little bit. Like it seems like we have some immature, yes, dreamers, but just a little bit of immaturity going on with the grown-ups and so-called grown-ups in this movie. Yeah. Which I don't begrudge people their dreams, their hopes and dreams. Oh. Crystal, did you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, wasn't she the only one working a job? Like
a real job?
At a later point in the movie, yeah. Hers is the only paycheck.
Yeah. And you can just see she's the realist. I appreciate dreamers, but when you got responsibilities like kids, you kind of gotta take care of your kids.
Yeah. I'm realizing as we're starting to talk about this movie, can we take a step back for a second for my sake?
Yes, please.
One is, I actually really enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed this movie more than I thought I was going to enjoy it. And unlike Crystal, I'm actually a Neil Diamond fan. I am. It is what it is. I love some yacht rock. Like, I know all of his music. I grew up on it. I'm a fan. And so I really enjoyed the movie a lot more than I thought I would. And when the movie was over, again, in preparation for this discussion, because the film is based on a documentary. I said it was a true story. It is a true story. It's based on a documentary. And the documentary, it was by filmmaker Greg Kohs. And I went and watched the documentary. And I found the documentary and the film are so wildly different, in my opinion, that I find now I'm having a hard time talking about the movie.
Me too.
I also watched the documentary. I want to fact check the whole movie. I did not enjoy this movie.
Okay.
I really disliked it.
Really?
Yep. Neil Diamond brings back bad memories for me. We also had that music playing in my childhood home, and not interested in revisiting these things. So I really liked the documentary. And then I watched the documentary first, and then watching this film and how they sugarcoat and make look better, it made me upset.
Are you somebody that typically likes to watch the doc first and then the film, or the film first and then the doc?
I'm a read the book first kind of girl. I don't know that I've ever had the opportunity to watch it doc first. So that's why I did it in this order. And as to our question, we often say, who picked this? It's more who I paid $30 to purchase this movie because I knew I would have to watch it twice. No one is putting that but on me but me. Just listener, just know that's me. So I now own this movie. Somewhere somebody got credit for a download for this movie, and all of that makes me upset to know that I participated in saying like that I thought this was a good thing. And we're going to now we're at some point we're going to get to the adoption point in this story. But when I say I hated this movie so much and I had it playing on the background, and at one point I was like, wait, I think I missed something. Because in the documentary I knew when something happens, and I totally did. I totally missed the whole point of why we're discussing this. And yeah, so I may be negative about this movie, so I'll just be quiet. It's okay.
No, I get that. Like, so I watched the film and then I watched the documentary. I think typically when I prep for our episodes, I will watch the media first, and then I will go and do a bunch of research, including reading the book. If there's a book, I will read the book. So for me, like, the piece of media comes first because I'm always like, well, that's what we're going to talk about is the piece of media. And so I always do that first. Though I may have had the exact same reaction that you had, quite frankly, had I watched the documentary first. So I think my enjoyment of the movie probably came from the fact that I did not have any reference point for it outside of the music of Neil Diamond, which, as I said, I do enjoy. And, Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson are fantastic singers. I mean, they're wonderful singers. And they sing in the movie as well. And so I think that's probably why I liked it. So maybe what we can do is let's talk through kind of we've got some main plot points I know we want to talk about. And let's just talk about both simultaneously. And that way, Haley, you can also fact check us too throughout. And so we, since we spoil everything, and we're going to spoil this too, maybe we will just say what the adoption plot point is, and then we'll just say it, and then we can sort of back into it, which is Rachel, who is Claire's oldest daughter and Mike's stepdaughter, gets pregnant and relinquishes a child in the film. And so that happens. And so we see that. And it happens about 3/4 of the way through the film is the pregnancy and the relinquishment. And so if we go back to the beginning, and we mentioned in the film, we see Rachel, who is kind of holding down the house. She seems to be the responsible one in the relationship. I will say also the film condenses the Sardina's relationship from the documentary. And the documentary, which was filmed over 7 or 8 years, I think, in the documentary, we learned this was actually a 17-year relationship. So the kids are quite small when Mike and Claire get together. In the film, Hollywood has condensed the timeline. The kids are older, and Rachel is an older teen when they get together. And so we see her responsible for the house. The other thing we see happen quite frequently is Mike has a heart condition. Mike's not well.
And Mike's smoking like a chimney constantly, except in the movie. He's smoking in the dock, and there is no smoking in the movie. That really irritated me.
Oh, and
Do you
say
like
more about that, Crystal?
Well, as an ex-smoker, I love watching people smoke, like actors smoke on TV, like the sound of it. I feel like I should have a cigarette in my hand right now. I don't know. I like the sound of it. I don't smoke anymore. I quit many years ago, but I don't know. That's all I had to say about that.
don't they like restrict the amount of tobacco? Like, I thought there was rules about it to not encourage smoke. Isn't that why? Like, I thought there was something to do with that.
In films?
Yeah.
Oh, I assumed it was
No.
from a contemporary standpoint that most actors would just say, I'm not doing a role where I have to smoke. I thought I thought it was an actor's choice.
That's what I thought too,
Contractually.
because Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson are both like very health conscious people. And so I just thought, oh yeah, they probably refuse, because they do use cinema cigarettes, like where it's not nicotine, right? But anything going into your lungs can't be good, right?
All right. Well, that's not the only thing they leave out. Like, I cannot believe that Mike and Claire let these things go to air on the documentary, which leads me to believe that things were so much worse even than what aired in the documentary. There is so much screaming at each other and abusive language, and there's brief moments of physical violence too. Not, I don't know how to say this. It's not like over any violence is not okay, but like there's a lot of horrible things, in my opinion, that kind of go on in the doc. And in the film, it's like there's a little yelling. I mean, I feel like this is what I meant by sugar coated. It's like they've made these people to be these like amazing, just quirky characters versus like the humans that the documentary portrayed.
What I thought was really interesting in the doc, so I read a essay by the documentary filmmaker Greg Kohs, who loves these two, by the way. Like, this documentary was a labor of love for him. He had seen them out playing locally in Milwaukee when he lived there. He really fell in love with them. Their story, which we haven't gotten to yet, but it's like a big significant plot point in the movie, which is, Claire is involved through no fault of her own in a horrific car accident. She gets hit by a car in her front yard. She's literally standing in her front yard, and a car loses control and hits her, and she loses a part of her leg. So this horrific accident, and Greg Kohs, the documentary filmmaker, really wants to find a way to support these people who he genuinely loves and has affection for, and embarks upon this, long filmmaking journey. This was his first film. He was involved in commercials, but this was his first film that he had ever done. And really, again, like, it is such a labor of love. And I feel like I need to keep saying that because I feel like, as the viewer of the doc, had I not known that, I thought these people come across terribly in the documentary. And it might be realistic, but I felt that these were deeply unlikable people in this doc. I thought, I don't want to watch them. I sure as hell don't want to go see them play anything. And it was such a gap for me between, I felt like the Hollywood version of what I saw was the couple that Greg Kohs thought that he was making the documentary about. This, to your point, Haley, this quirky, down on their luck, had some really hard times, but ultimately really lovable people. And those were not the people I saw in the documentary.
I'm just going to push back on that a little bit because, okay, so for me, loved the doc. Like, I thought that doc was really good. I thought there were so many aspects that they could have pulled from the doc and put in the movie that would make the movie as good as the doc. I thought that the film wasn't really very good, personally. That was my personal take on it. But again, I usually watch the film first and then watch the doc, and I watched it the opposite way around, and it ruined it for me. So I think that's probably has something to do with it too. The love that Mike had for Claire was so apparent in the doc for me. Like when I watched them and he kissed her on stage, and then when she lost her leg, he said, I'll be your legs, I'll be your arms, I'll be your voice, I'll be what, like, I love this woman so much. And I feel like that wasn't translated as much in the actual film. But then the parts that are so uncomfortable and painful to watch, to me, are such an indication of what addiction does to a person. Because when you watch Claire in most, like before she hurt her leg, before she lost her leg, and then after she, I think, got sober, she was a very lovable person. Like, I don't know, to me anyway, she was. I really saw her and she just was, I don't know. I really loved her. I really fell in love with her. She was my favorite character, I would say.
I was so impressed with Mike's sobriety. He held it for many years, including, they show, through this difficult time after Claire has the injury. Can I have a side to this? We recently got this is a major aside. We recently got speed bumps in our neighborhood, literally because a car drove into a house where I see this very cute dachshund in the window every day when I walk past with Spencer on our walks. And like, that is wild. I never thought something like that would happen here. But anyway, we have speed bumps because of that. So instead of Rachel looking out for Claire gardening in the front, they need some speed bumps. Okay, where was I going? I did not like Claire. I didn't like her before. I didn't like her after. I thought she was, and this is hard, right? Because I'm talking about the documentary at this point. And, as you know, Crystal, the documentary can only show so many things. I'm saying that because you have a documentary about your life. Not to a documentary explain you, because you're the expert here on that. But I what came across, did not like. I didn't like her. And so you watched the documentary first too. Okay. All right. Maybe that is, don't do that, or you'll spoil the movie.
Yeah. Don't do that.
I felt like, it's interesting, Crystal, to hear you say that you felt like the love didn't translate. I felt the opposite. So the film, when it opens, it says based on a true love story. That's what it says on the screen. So you're primed. I felt the film was a love story, to your point. I thought that you saw them standing by one another throughout, her investment in his dreams, him standing by her through the recovery from the accident, but also the recovery through addiction. And so I really felt that was a love story. I really felt like the documentary, okay, this is just my opinion and I can't think of another word for it. I really felt like the documentary was a study of delusion.
What do you mean by that?
I felt like after Claire recovers, so her accident forces them off stage. They are getting more and more successful locally, so successful, in fact, that they open for Pearl Jam at Summerfest, which is wild. And they're on stage with Eddie Vedder. And I know you fact checked this too, Haley. You had to have all true, like happened. Amazing to see. So they really are seeing quite a bit of local success, but her accident derails that completely. And there is this, as we talked about, this long recovery period, but then they're kind of trying, like, can they get back out there? Can they draw the crowds again? And they get back out and at this point are playing in, not just small restaurants. In the film, we see small restaurants, but we see crowded small restaurants with really excited crowds, albeit much smaller crowds than they had been playing before the accident. In the documentary, these are empty rooms. I mean, which, again, to up and coming people, like people in the, that are hustling from a musical standpoint, and I mean hustle in the positive sense, you play to empty rooms. Like that's what happens. But they're playing to empty rooms, and also they are straight face saying things like, we ought to be in Vegas. Yeah. And they're being like, this is since they're sincere. They're sincere. We ought to be in Vegas. They have no money. I mean, there's points where there's not food in the house. They're really on very hard times. And they're talking about Vegas. And again, I mean this totally sincerely. Like, Vegas is no joke. I mean, you're playing in Vegas. Even like the openers for the openers off strip in Vegas are like wildly talented, right? It's like the buskers in Manhattan. Like, the people that play down for, the open guitars, give me some change down in the subway in New York City. There's an audition for that. Like, these are really the best in the world. And I'm like, I'm like, I feel bad. I support dreamers, really. But I'm like,
I would agree with that. And I think the reason why, like, from a documentarian standpoint, to see people be so unapologetically themselves, even in their delusion, is what you want when you're capturing people. And so I appreciated that, I think, from that standpoint. But yes, there was definitely a level of like, what are you guys talking about? And I think probably Rachel, the daughter, felt that way and saw that. And that was probably why she was so irritated. Like, you guys are worrying about Vegas, but like, what are we having for dinner? But I don't know. The like, Eddie Vedder went up in my books, like, loved him already. I love him even more now. I think too, there's something that can't be translated at times to be in the presence of those people. Surely they impacted the people around them in a way that maybe wasn't conveyed through the doc in some ways.
Well, just the fact that they had a fan so deeply love them that he wanted to make a documentary about them. I mean, that said something. And perhaps that also fed the delusion.
Well, I noticed also, I mean, in the doc, they called one another Lightning and Thunder. And everyone around them called them Lightning and Thunder. They didn't call them Mike. I mean, I'm calling them Mike and Claire. And that's what off stage, that's what they're called in the film, Mike and Claire. But like in the doc, no one ever they don't call each other Mike and Claire. Nobody calls them Mike and Claire. They're called Lightning and Thunder, which again was a little wild to me.
So as long as I have this wig on, I require it to be called Thunder. All right.
You want to be called Thunder?
No, I feel like you need your own name.
Also, if someone had said to me, "You're going to be Thunder," I would be like, "Excuse me? No one is calling me Thunder anything. Thank you so much."
I think in Mike's defense, in the film, when he says to her, "You're Thunder," I think he's rewarded with sex. So I think it worked for him.
Sure, it did work for him. Crystal, I don't have a name for you yet. It's rattling around in the back of my head. We may have to come back to that. Yeah.
We're gonna
Okay.
before the episode's done. All right, let's talk about Rachel though, and talk again about what we saw in the film versus what we saw in the doc, because these were super different and wild. So maybe let's start with the film. In the film, Claire is recovering again. She's not doing well at all. She has not yet had treatment for her addiction. Or actually, she's in the treatment center. She has just gone to treatment. So she's in inpatient treatment. She is not home. Rachel is the only one in the house with her brother and her stepdad, Mike. She's the only one that has a job. She let us know. And she says she's pregnant. And in fact, she's showing. She's so pregnant that she's visibly pregnant. Mike hasn't noticed. Mike didn't notice that she's pregnant, and she tells him that she's pregnant, and she says that I want to give it to someone. Like, I want to have this baby, and I want to give it to someone.
And he's like, okay, this is the plan. There's no discussion about that. Mike's like, I don't even know. He has some acronym. Situation, mission, execution, administration, and command. Situation, I'm knocked up. Mission, what do you want to do about it? I want to give it to a couple that wants to have a baby. Now you get to execute. She says, I already called the Adoption Information Center. There's a potential couple that could assist in medical bills and all that. So we see this financial pressure, which a lot of expectant moms feel. And he just says, okay, so you already took care of the A for administration. That just leaves command. Who do you want to be in charge of helping you? And she says, with her voice shaking, my mom, because her mom has been recovering but not well. She's really struggling and is really checked out. And this is heartbreaking to me. Just the fact that it's like, there's no like, are you sure we could help you? It's just like, oh yeah, perfect. This checks the box. Next, what's next? So Mike as her stepdad, I see totally failing her here in the film. Just the fact that she's not given any option. Yeah. How did you react to this, Crystal?
Yeah, I mean, it was like, well, there's a problem and you seem to have come up with a solution. Let's move along. It just feels like how adoption is always talked about. Oh, there's this problem. Oh, there's the solution. Everything's going to be great. Let's move along, right? Let's not pull back the curtain on anything.
Well, in the arc of this movie also, because we had this peak when they were out there on stage and they were singing and the crowds were growing, and then the accident. We're in a valley in the movie. We're in a valley right now, right? Like, Claire is not doing well. Money is tight. People are kind of starting to fight with one another because they're under huge amounts of stress, and so the pregnancy is part of the down part of the movie, right? Like, it's now the relinquishment, because we see birth and relinquishment. We're on the upswing again, right? When we see birth and relinquishment, because Claire is out of the treatment center. She is no longer addicted. They are starting to get back out on stage again. And so Rachel has her baby. And Haley, do you want to talk about that scene?
Well, as I alluded to earlier, I had this going in the background. Something happens later on, and I was like, wait, what? Where's the baby? Like, huh? Rachel's not pregnant anymore, huh? I had to rewind because Rachel gives birth and relinquishes during a montage. It is under 2 minutes. I think I didn't actually time it. It is so quick, blink and you miss it. It's literally, she's in the hospital. Her mom is holding her hand. The nurse is on the other side. She's got her legs up. Baby comes out. Couple comes in, smiles, hands off, and they sort of smile while the new couple with the baby leaves the room. I was like, what the actual fuck? This is how you're gonna do it in a montage?
Wait, you skipped something important.
What did I skip?
The Monkeys, I'm a Believer, is playing over top.
It's true. That might come up later. I don't know. I'm just saying.
In the doc, they use this scene of her giving birth and their comeback in tandem, and the symbolism for me was, a baby's being born, a new beginning. I hated that it was used in that way. I hated that. Can we just go back to the car scene where Claire and Rachel are driving in the car?
Well, this is the doc now. Talk about that, Crystal. Yeah, talk about the doc.
Yeah. Okay. So, God bless Rachel. She was very honest in this, and you could tell Claire was a little sheepish for the things that Rachel was saying, because she says, Rachel says, I'm knocked up. She's driving, and I think Claire was in the back seat. She says, I'm knocked up, but I'm not gonna keep it. Can you imagine bringing a baby into this house? And Rachel says, yeah, my mom said that I wasn't allowed to bring a baby home, and I'm going to give it to a good family. And she calls Claire out and says, you told me I can't keep it. That you said you're not going to bring that thing home from the hospital. And they're hiding the pregnancy from Grandma, from Claire's mom, who's a hard ass. She's a hard ass. And because Rachel doesn't want her grandma to be, disappointed. And later on in a few scenes, I think Claire says, Rachel's horrible pregnant. She's so hormonal, So again, treating this like like this pregnancy is a problem.
Can you imagine calling me Grandma Thunder?
It was not her finest moment at all. And I really felt for Rachel because she didn't have a choice in this. I think just environmentally, like within her environment, there was no choice. I would not want to bring a child into that environment either. But there really was no support for her to do anything other than relinquish this child.
Why do you think that got rewritten? The length of time spent on the pregnancy and the relinquishment is about the same in both the doc and the film. It's about the same amount of time. But why do you think this line, you told, you're not bringing that thing home. You told me I couldn't keep it. Like, why do you think that was rewritten? Because in the film, it sounds like it's 100% Rachel's decision. She says, I want to give the baby to a good family. Why do you think that got changed for the film?
Okay, I read an article about this. So I want to just share, if I can. This is from the writer and director of the film, and he's sort of like fact checking for this article for EW, and the fact check is like that Rachel got pregnant and gave up the baby for adoption. That's true. Rachel got pregnant. And he says, and then what I found really relatable and sweet about the story, especially for many people out there who have had adoption in their life, and I've known many people who have done that, is that Rachel got to know the family that was going to adopt her baby. And I won't go on with that yet. Then he says, there's so many ways that people live their lives and families are made. I didn't want that element to be something in the movie that people thought was such a heavy thing when people make their choices and they figure out a way to move forward with what they're comfortable with and happy with. I was happy to tell that story. So it's on purpose that he wrote it as a happy moment, a choice. It was fully on purpose that he removed any of this pressure or this negative things that we see in the doc. Like, he's saying out loud what we're saying. No, like, people are sugarcoating all this stuff all the time. Like, yeah, and he's saying, I did it on purpose. Like, it was a choice, like an actual choice, not just like an unconscious choice. It was out loud. What? This is what really makes me angry, because to titrate down this grand choice of permanent severance of a child from your family into a, well, let's make a plan, great musical montage, shortcuts the trauma involved for everyone. And like, I see a societal delusion taking place here that Claire has succumbed to. She gave her granddaughter away, or grandson, I'm not sure, I don't recall. I don't even know if we're told what gender the baby was. I don't think we are. And she gave her grandchild away to strangers to parent like it was nothing. Like I'm not going to, the only way I'm going to support my daughter is she doesn't bring that thing home from the hospital.
I think also society has been led to believe that, look, mothers who relinquish, they made a choice. They made a choice. And so there is little empathy for that choice, or willingness, in my opinion, to look deeper beyond, you made a choice. And that goes from everything from closed records, as we know that proponents of closed records will cite the privacy of the relinquishing mother. Well, she made a choice to relinquish. She made a choice. So like, why should we, why should we open up records? To, again, just a general lack of empathy for the fact that a relinquishing mother may be traumatized by having gone through this process. And again, we go back to the film, and watching just the film, you get this sense that this young woman has made a decision. She's made a decision, and she executes on it. And in the documentary, we see clearly her closest support system saying, no, like, this is not going to happen. And in the birth montage in the doc, the monkeys aren't playing over top, but the montage we get is the family in bankruptcy. They're literally in bankruptcy as she's giving birth, which then calls into question the metaphorical choice that she's making as well. So for me, that was like really something I really took away, that I thought, again, did a huge disservice to the viewing public, in addition to all the things that you just pointed out, Haley.
And can I rewind in the doc just a little? Prior to Rachel ever getting knocked up, quote unquote, Mike literally says and he's talking about Rachel, what she needs is to have a baby and raise it so she knows what her mother went through. Yeah. And so she can't. She can't, because Mike and Claire don't let her. Also, I'm just going to pull back on the curtain on the article. The writer of the movie tells us that Rachel goes on to have another unexpected pregnancy and contacts the family that adopted her first child, and she relinquishes a second time so that her first child will be raised with their sibling. So we see this pattern again. It is, I'm so glad you pointed that out. Like, we're saying choice, and she's the only one working, and she's supporting the rest of the family. they're not helping her at all. And then she's stuck. Like, I just feel so badly for her. It really, like, my heart breaks for the impact that this has had on her.
You know, we've talked on the pod about adoptee consciousness and coming into adoptee consciousness, and which suggests that there's an adoptee unconsciousness. And I just want to pose the idea that there's also a birth mother unconsciousness that also believes that adoption is a win-win-win for everybody. As much as there's a process of adoptees coming into consciousness, I think there's also a process of birth mothers coming into consciousness around what their situation really actually was. Like, did they have a choice? Was this the very best thing for them and their child? And I don't know if I should mention this or not, but Rachel has an Instagram and a TikTok, and she posts on there some updates after the film. She's not got a lot of followers on there yet, but she says who she is. She talks about her business, and then she says she has no children. And as an adoptee, it felt like, oh, your children are forgotten. Like that not they're forgotten, but just like, okay, you're not claiming them as your children, which is probably, out of respect for the adoptive parents or the child themselves, or like whatever it is that why you would choose to do that. But as an adoptee, it's like, but I am your child. Like, she does have 2 children out there. She is a mother.
Yeah, I saw that too, and we don't know what's going on in folks' minds, of course, and I feel sad that she's not able to claim them and speak about them if she wanted to, and the fact that she doesn't identify as a mother, that was hard as an adoptee to hear too. And of course she can say whatever she'd like. I don't want to put that on her as a human. I think that goes back to this pressure of society, the shame and stigma that we put on mothers who relinquish babies to adoption, and it's all difficult. And so this film glossing over adoption like it's some happy montage is repeating the shame spiral. We're recording this in 2026. I thought we were past this. We're not. Shame on this writer. For shame for writing these scenes in this way and straying from that accurate portrayal of the documentary.
Haley, would you like to give Song Song Blue an award?
I've talked so much. I should probably just continue. Yeah, let me give an award. I feel like I should have made a meaner award. It's not mean. For a film that lingers on dreams, belief, visibility, and longing, then treats adoption as an instant certainty twice, to a story that presents us with, I couldn't leave her if I tried, as long as it's a relationship and not a grandchild. Once the child appears, doubt magically disappears. Permanence is assumed and complexity is resolved via montage. Since I'm a believer, I'm pleased to present Song Song Blue with the Then I Saw Her Face and Had It Disappeared award. Adoption Pop is podcast journalist Haley Radke,
filmmaker Crystal Park,
and cultural critic Sullivan Summer. In researching this episode, we relied on Greg Kohs' Song Song Blue documentary and commentary Barstool to Big Screen. Gerard Hall for Entertainment Weekly, Fact versus Fiction in Song Song Blue, and Paul Green for Billboard. 38 actors who are Oscar nominated for playing real musicians and singers.
If you like what we do, drop us a rating on your podcast app, find and follow us on Instagram and TikTok, and let us know what you want us to cover in future episodes.
Grab your green gear and your pot of gold. We're hoping for a little luck of the Irish next week on Adoption Pop.